I
at
didn't
the
even
risk
say
of
it.
having you lie again about your drinking habits, are you drinking? Are you drunk?
No, I can drink right now. I am legally allowed to drink right now. I'm on no restrictions at all. I have found that I don't really enjoy whiskey like I used to. I don't know if it's like a subconscious thing where my brain's trying to prepare me for the fact that I'm not going to be able to drink for once I'm sentenced for like a year to longer. I have no idea how long it's going to be. So I haven't really enjoyed alcohol much lately. I've drank plenty, but I haven't enjoyed it that much.
Maybe it's
more
like a sense
depressed drinking.
memory. Maybe you've locked the taste of whiskey to this entire experience now, and
Yeah,
you just don't want anything to do with any of it.
yeah. It kind of sucks because I really enjoyed whiskey, but oh well.
And
Yeah,
you've made statements before about Aaron. I think you said last night in my chat that Aaron used to start drinking at 9 a.m.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of days where I started drinking at 9 a.m. too. I was usually like, if I had a bad day.
About Aaron drinking, yeah, like so he would drink at your house, like your whiskey. He would just start pouring it at 9 a.m.
No, he would typically April would go out and buy him a proper beer. I hate beer. So April would go buy beer. Michelob Golden, I believe, was one of the common ones. And he would drink at 9 a.m. This is usually at his house. He wasn't usually at my house at 9 a.m. Right? Like, cause he was usually doing his show.
So they would take, is this true? Like they would take 2 cars over to your house so that he could leave and go do his show and April would just stay there?
Mm-hmm.
That's so insane. You live an hour away. Like they would bring 2 gas guzzling trucks.
And I would tell him over and over, like, you can just use my studio. I have a giant industrial green screen that I've never actually gotten around to using, but it's like, we could hang the green screen, put your Steel Toe logo behind you. No big deal. Like we could do that for you and you could just broadcast from here. Like why leave? And my setup is, my setup is a giant tax write-off. Right. And,
right.
And I was very successful. And so my camera is like a $5,000 camera, and I have great mics. I've like 10 different audio.
Get it. You have a trust fund. We get it.
That's a funny one. But like I have all this stuff. I have a way better monitor setup. Like there's way more real estate to use. And he just was like, no, I need to go back to my shitty two screens and my 720p camera.
Did you?
Like, okay.
I mean, how many times did you ever do a show with him in his studio?
I did. Yes. Well, did I do a show? I did one of my shows from his studio once. But I don't know if I did a show with him. I don't think in his studio.
I might have been on the Steel Toe Morning Show from his studio. I don't remember that.
What was can you give us like your impression of his studio? Tell us about it. Tell us about that room. Tell us about when you first walked down and saw the big clunky TVs and.
Okay, no, he doesn't have big clunky TVs. He has rather small monitors. They're
thick. I mean, we've seen them. They're like
they're cheap. Oh, they're clunky that way, but they're like 27-inch monitors. They're not big. They're not even. I don't think they're over 30 inches. And they're 1080
monitor.
They're 1080p. Not as far away as he has them though. Like because he has them.
Got it.
When I did my show from there, it was really hard to read the chats because it's a 1080p monitor, and it's pretty far away and it's not huge. Like I'm looking at I have a 43-inch 4K monitor is my main screen. So like I'm not used to having 2 small monitors that I have to like squint. And so it was
the computer setup like. What's the mic setup? I mean, is it just like when you walk down, give us your first impressions?
Yeah, so it is his basement. His basement is one kind of large family room, and then there's a laundry room off to the right, and then to the left is a bathroom, the understairs closet where Gordy was trapped, then a bathroom, then a bedroom. There's the setup is this giant. It was a giant curtain. You couldn't see anything, right? It's the giant Steel Toe banner that sits behind him. That's like an actual physical giant banner, and it's huge. And so then you kind of go around that, and it's this probably 12 feet long banner, and so it's like 12 feet by 5 feet wide at best.
And you would sit and stare at the wall wall that he uses as a backdrop now, right? You would like look, you'd be looking at that wall.
Yeah, that shelf was on the other side of the desks. And so there's a desk and then the shelf, and those monitors are sitting on the shelf. They're not mounted on the wall or anything, because he could mount them onto, swivel arms or something and bring them a lot closer and make his life easier. But that would require, $12
effort
and 30 minutes of work. Yeah.
And so it was
the table stand problem, like they're fine, except for the fact that if you touch the table, like if you are sitting next to a spastic, spastic boxing coach, like he's going to pound on the table and it comes through the mic. It's like,
and it falls off all the time. It's like his wrist can't torque the nut enough to clip it to the table. So every time he moves it after about a week, it just falls off and he has to reattach it every week.
These wrists couldn't do it.
You also said something yesterday that you went to the gym with him maybe 10 times and you never saw him lift a weight. Which funny.
We would drive up to the gym. He would go only on Thursdays, and he'd go Thursday afternoon or Thursday evenings or whatever, where he would get to do
sorry, Nick, like how do you even approach this, like to your polycule? You go to a boxing gym. How do you tell your polycule, let's go to the gym and watch me work out? Like, can
I pause it? I have a theory. Look, there's 4 of them. One of them's clearly the alpha. One of them's he works out, he sweats, he looks better with a shirt off. So I imagine the women definitely want to go check that out. And then Nick, admitted homosexual, wants to also go watch Aaron beat the sweat off his tits.
So the reason that I would go is because April would go with him to the gym.
What was that about? Was that an ego thing that he needed her to come? I get a feeling like
she would go work out. Like she actually went and lifted. It was embarrassing. It was like she's over there and she's like, doing reverse flies or working squats, which is always great. And I'd be hanging out by her. Like, and I'm not sitting here saying I was lifting much. I was mostly hanging out. We would listen to music and talk.
Spotting.
And no, she didn't need a spot. But I would sit there and just hang out, and I would do a little bit of lifting, but nothing serious. But no, I would go hang out with her. And so he would go and like sit in the ring and do like random sparring with guys from time to time.
The theory with him putting her on the show has always been like, like he was jealous. We know that her ex-boyfriend worked at that factory where she worked. And then when he made her quit, we feel like that was like out of jealousy and like mistrust. He didn't want her there all day with somebody she had been with, and he wanted to like control her by having her work from the house. So I always found it odd that he would like leave her at your house. And that's why I have the theory that like he kind of saw this all coming and was letting her go. He wanted out of this, and he saw that as an opportunity to, because he was such a controlling guy. He needed her at his house. He needed her to quit her job. And now all of a sudden he's okay with her taking her own car to another dude's house.
It was so weird because everything he complains about with April was his idea. So I didn't talk about this when it happened, but part of the thing that made my life so stressful, I was a wreck from mid-February through getting arrested. The reason it was so stressful was our nanny quit unexpectedly, and our driving schedule. So we homeschool our kids, but they do tons of activities. And so throughout the day, 5 different kids are going to different places to get extracurricular learning. And so we would often require 2 or even 3 drivers on a specific day. But when we had the nanny, we were equipped to deal with that. Her leaving in the middle of February was devastating. Aaron's idea was that April could come and fill in as the nanny at our house.
So he sent her away.
Aaron sent her to my house starting in early March to be the nanny. And she would sleep over all the time. Like it was very common for her to just stay the night. Because he would sometimes come out after the show, sometimes not. There were several days where he was not there at all. They were magic. They were blissful.
Because our speculation was, she would show up to the morning show late. and she'd be wearing like dressed. Sometimes she'd have her purse around her. So she was coming in from the car. She would bring him gas station garbage on the way home, and like
he would leave if he would stay over, he would leave at 4 a.m. and so he'd go set up his show or whatever. Like, you could do all this from my office, right, no problem. But instead, he would leave at 4 a.m. so he'd have all this time. If she was going to go join him, she wouldn't leave until 5 a.m. Because, you know, she didn't have to be there. And right. But most of the time, like, she eventually, her leaving the show, she did her last show with on April 1st. And,
can April fly solo? We
right. Yeah, I know you guys are intimately familiar with all of this.
Right.
But
right.
what you don't know is, like, Aaron was like, he came to me and he's like, yeah, she doesn't need to do the show anymore. It'll be just fine. Like, she can be down here full time as a nanny, and then like I'll take over back on the show because I know it's stressing her out. He didn't even talk to her about this. And like, she was really kind of hurt by it because she didn't really want to keep doing the show. But for him to just unilaterally say, no, like, I'll do her this favor, was like, well, that's kind of like being an asshole.
This reminds me of the movie Friday where they're like, it'll be both of ours. We'll just keep it down at my house.
It's fascinating to go back and watch this, like, around the time of April, with the hindsight that we have now, with the new fact that we've got. So when April left, he was saying she's going to be back on the show next week. She's just taking a step back from the show. Wednesdays, I always want it to be just a solo person. So in front of the camera, he was very much like, April's going to come back. And it felt like he was protecting. He was like, I need space. She needs space away from the show so we can save our marriage. That's what he was saying.
Candied bacon.
Yeah, the candied bacon was really funny because Aaron was not making candied bacon. He was singing karaoke with Kayla and I. We were like one room away. The karaoke room's right next to the kitchen, but he was in singing karaoke, and like, he would go, he'd take 5 minutes or whatever and go like see what April was up to. But she was making the candied bacon, and it's like her mom's recipe or whatever. Aaron doesn't even know how to do anything.
Hold on, this is at your house?
Yeah, this is at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was at his house.
No.
She's upstairs.
No, we've mixed up a lot of different things. He says she's upstairs a lot, and he also said yesterday we were making candied bacon together, and over time that's morphed into she's upstairs making candied bacon. Got it. That's where that comes from.
He's two different lies.
Yes.
He literally walked into the kitchen as she is pulling the candy bacon out of the oven, talked to her for a couple minutes, and was like, yeah, we were making candy bacon together. It's like, no, you weren't. You were shittily singing country songs over and over and over with no concept of melody. Oh my God.